Hello. This short video is designed to give you an overview of the StREAM Student Engagement Analytics platform. StREAM takes the digital footprints from student participation in their learning and codifies it from very high through to very low and none. This engagement score provides an instant overview of how effectively students are using the learning materials and opportunities available to them to support their success whilst at university. Using those data insights, personal tutors can work effectively with their tutees to develop a personalised approach to success. In this short demonstration, I will take you through some of the key features of StREAM from the point of view of a personal academic tutor. The Management Information, or MI dashboard, is the screen that all staff users will land on when they first log into StREAM. Here you can check that you've logged in to the right account. The number of students that you will see will depend on your roles and responsibilities within the university. For information, teams who could potentially see any student from across the university will likely see information on thousands of students, whereas academic staff will only see those students who are studying on programs that they are teaching on. Academic staff who are also personal tutors will be able to toggle this button to switch between seeing the data for all those students that they have responsibility for and just those who are their personal tutees. The data on these MI dashboard cards will update accordingly. Interventions, which may also be known as interactions or notes, are indications that a conversation with a student has taken place. The data on the card reflects either all students or just the tutees, depending on what button has been toggled. Alerts or notifications are automated indications that are pushed out to staff or to students or even to different teams within the university, depending on the trigger criteria for sending those notifications, and your university will determine what they are. You can click on either a segment in the pie chart or one of the engagement categories to go directly to the My Students page, where you can see exactly which students fall into the selected category. As a busy member of academic staff, this ability to find out which students most need your support today is critical in helping you focus your time and attention where it is needed most. This doesn't, of course, prevent any proactive personal tutoring meetings from taking place. Clicking on the My Students tab at the top of your screen provides lots more detail about the students that you have sight of within StREAM. You can see more about their login details, their enrolment status and study mode, their year of study, and you can also see any associated StREAM information, such as daily and average engagement scores, attendance, or the number of active interventions and alerts. Select students to group them based on the data filters available down the left-hand side of this screen. The filters that you see will depend on the data that your university project team have chosen to pass over. Here, you can see some of the options. You could organise your tutees into their different tutor groups, or a number of different groups depending on the data filters that matter in your role that make it easier for you to manage your students. You can see some examples here. You can also use the filters and save the different filter combinations that are most relevant to you. And you can even set one of those as your default, meaning that that data set will automatically show when you land on the My Students page. Clicking on the three dots beside an individual student record will enable you to create an intervention or an exemption, think authorised absence, for example, directly from this page. You can use the search button at the top left to find an individual student record. And clicking on the individual student record will enable you to access all of their data. The information that you see on the student record is the same as what the student will also see when they log into StREAM. The Learning Journey Map under the Engagement tab is the first place to start. At its simplest, the map shows how a student has engaged for each day over the last 4 weeks. The date range is customizable using the date picker buttons that are shown. In this example, you can see how James's engagement improved from partial to very high before steadily declining. James then spent a period of time with very low engagement. And then, after a week or so, he began to re-engage with his studies. And what you're trying to understand is the reason for James's behaviour. Because StREAM runs 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year. So it's important, firstly, to look at the date range that is shown. If the engagement pattern you see here occurred over the holidays or while James was on placement, then you would probably not expect James to be engaging highly with university resources over that time. But if this was James's behaviour in the middle of a teaching term, you would likely be more concerned, and a conversation with James would appear to be needed. Toggle the cohort average line on to see whether James's behaviour is markedly different from the rest of his cohort. Here you can see that it is, suggesting that the reason for James's engagement pattern is unique to him rather than something about how his course has been designed. You can also toggle the top 25% line to see how the most engaged students in James's cohorts are studying. This line can be used to nudge students to engage more if they would benefit from being stretched in this way. Remember, students have the ability to toggle these buttons on and off for themselves. If we click on the Alerts or Notification button, then markers will appear on the learning journey map for each day that an alert was triggered by the student. Notifications can be sent to students, to staff, to central teams, or a combination of these. They are created using simple logic combinations in respect of engagement, attendance, resource use, or engagement by course. And colleagues who are your StREAM administrators will be able to configure the criteria for notifications based on the institutional requirements around student support and success. They will carefully consider the language that is used to make sure that it is appropriate in the circumstances. A call to action should also be provided, making it clear what the recipient of the notification, which may well be you as a personal tutor, should do. Typically, this will involve reaching out to the student and offering support. In our example, the first notification has gone directly to James, our student, asking if he is okay and reiterating that he has a personal tutor to support him if required. No response is received from James, and so a second notification has been sent, this time to James's personal tutor. James has subsequently had a meeting with his personal tutor and has been supported to re-engage with his studies. Check out our engagement category overviews and our calendar view to identify further patterns in engagement that you can explore when you meet your tutees. If a student has an authorised absence, then this will appear as a blue panel for the relevant period. They're known as exemptions within StREAM. Students will not receive notifications from StREAM while this exemption is in place, as it is already known by the university, as evidenced by the exemption, that the student is not going to be participating in their learning for a period of time. Before meeting with tutees, personal tutors should check the profile page. Information on the profile page is used to help staff members build a more detailed picture of their tutees. Data included here is determined by your university, depending on what they consider appropriate for inclusion. Some protected characteristic information may be included here. But you will also find contact information for your student and for members of staff who have a level of institutional responsibility for this student. You may also see information on their prior educational experience, for example. This can be key information, especially in the first few weeks of first year, when students are only just learning what academically purposeful behaviour involves. Please note, none of this information is used to determine a student's engagement score. It is there for information purposes only. This is because the engagement score is based solely on what students do while they are at university, not on who they are. This matters because students can change how they are engaging, but they cannot normally change their personal or familial circumstances. for example, whether they are first in family or what level of income their parents have. You may be wondering how the engagement scores are calculated. The resources page gives you this insight. You can see which data sources are being provided to StREAM for the purposes of calculating engagement. The graphs show how each student is engaging with each resource on a daily basis. However, this quantification data is hard to interpret. What would good engagement look like here? And that's why we codify engagement in the Learning Journey Map. It's much easier to understand and to act upon. But it is still useful to understand more deeply how your students are engaging. Are they never attending class and only ever catching up via lecture recordings afterwards? Or are they logging into their VLE but never accessing their course materials? Depending on what the data shows, you will be able to tailor your conversations accordingly. If your university is passing detailed information on attendance and assessment activity to StREAM, then additional insights can be provided at module level. These insights may not be available until a later stage in your project. The easiest way to create an intervention is from the student record. You can also create authorised absences from here too, via the exemptions button. A historical record of interventions, of exemptions, and of alerts can also be found here. When you create an intervention, the intervention panel appears on the right of your screen. Work your way through the different fields. Drop-downs are customizable by the university. When you complete the description field, be aware of any guidance provided by your university. Confidential information should not be included here, as the principle of data transparency on which StREAM is built means that anyone with access to that student, including the student themselves, can see the information listed here. You can keep track of how you engaged with the student, when you engaged with the student, and the duration of your conversation. You can also set a target date by which the student agrees to complete any assigned actions. And you can set an automated reminder to yourself to follow up with your student at a relevant time, taking some of the pain out of managing all these different appointments and reminders. Creating an intervention places that marker on the student learning journey map, as we have already seen. It also creates an intervention record for that student. When you click on the drop-down, you can see that this intervention record contains all relevant information from that intervention panel that we just completed. If your conversation with the student results in the student agreeing to access some help or support for themselves, you can create a signpost to the relevant support service. A signpost is a web link to university-specific information that the student can access via the intervention record, and then they can click on that link to access the online support or find contact details for that support service in their own time. We would also encourage you to think about opening that signpost link during your conversation with the student and working through it with them in that conversation for maximum impact. If the conversation is more sensitive in nature, however, we would advise you to use the referral option. In this case, you would only put some headline information in the description field, as it wouldn't be appropriate to include confidential information within StREAM for all to see. A referral sends an email to the relevant support service team, and the responsibility is on them to reach out to the student and to offer support. This is particularly useful for students in crisis. Make sure you send a copy of the email to yourself as the creator of the referral, as well as to the personal tutor if that isn't you. You can also send the email to the student. This is a great way to keep them informed about what has been agreed and what will be happening next. You can also add free text email addresses here if appropriate. Multiple email referrals can be made via the one intervention. Click to indicate that you have consent to make the referral if that is required, and then click Create. The new intervention record is then available for you to refer to in the future. Specific details from the conversation with the student that are only recorded in the referral email will never be visible within StREAM on this intervention record. Use the comments feature to interact with the student, creating a record of those communications that is connected to the student record, rather than sitting in personal email boxes. And don't forget, close the intervention when you are confident that the student has been successfully picked up by the appropriate support service, or the student is happy that they have the information that they need to address the identified problem. So that's all we have time for today in this video overview of how to use StREAM effectively as a personal tutor.